I'm Sharon Milligan, and I'm the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and Student Services, and a member of the Putnam Collection Advisory Committee here at Case Western Reserve University. And I have the honor of kicking off Voices Unbound, Art as a Catalyst for Social Justice. Today, we will highlight two prominent Cleveland artists who both have art displayed right here at the Mandel School. And as students, staff, and faculty, we have had the honor and opportunity of living with their creative expressions over these last several months. I want to give you sort of a context of why this building. I suspect Putnam is in a number of buildings here at Case Western Reserve, and also you see all kinds of pieces outside in the public art and all the sculpture as you drive around and hopefully walk around the campus that abuts the Cleveland Museum of Art and MoCA. The art of these two prominent Cleveland artists fit very well in this Case Western Reserve building because their work helps us to visualize some of the issues that have been identified as important to social work and nonprofit organizations. In fact, as I look at the school's growing art collection, I see how the works reflect upon some themes addressed in what we call the 13 Grand Challenges of Social Work and the Society, last published in 2022. And moreover, similar themes that appear in the scholarships and journals for the field of nonprofit management and organizations. These two sources demonstrate a deep commitment to a more equitable society and an abiding commitment to strengthening society through science. For example, in the 13 Grand Challenges of Social Work and Society, there is an acknowledgement of the continuing need to build healthy relationships between all people, even within ourselves, to build relationships with ourselves that are healthy, and to build relationships within families and within neighborhoods and communities and across geographic borders all over the world. We hope to end homelessness, eradicate social isolation, eliminate racism, build financial capability and access for all, and to achieve equal opportunity and justice. That's a little bit of how we see these expressions facing us within this building. But to tell you much more about the artists and their work in our building, I want to introduce you to Kathy Berry, the director of the Putnam Collection, and the owner of Berry Projects and Museums and institutional consultant. Kathy Berry.
What a pleasure for me to be here with two of our artists and their wonderful installations in this building. The Putnam Collection, as you may or may not know, is really a treasure of artwork on this campus. It was developed by Peter Putnam and his mother, Mildred Andrews Putnam, in honor of Mildred, his mother, and Father John. And it was a gift given him in about the 80s, at the point that Case Institute of Technology and Western Reserve University came together. There were a lot of blank spots on the campus, and Peter's idea was that you could put sculpture in some of these spots to knit the campus together. We're so lucky to have an endowed fund, so we get money every year to use across campus in public ways. And we have work in public spaces, in classroom buildings, in the residence halls, offices, lobbies, the dental clinic over by the Cleveland Clinic. And I guess our simple motto is art everywhere, all the time, for everyone. And our goal, too, is to have this art have something to do with the place that we're in, to provide a greater sense of place for the campus, to create memories for our students and all different members of the community. So to be able to put art into this school is really such a fabulous opportunity, because there's so many important values and traditions that sort of exude from this building. And so it's been an absolute delight to put art in here. The collection, at this point, I'm just showing 8 major pieces that we have. The first one is by Julian Stanczak, right here, a 30, I would say 8, but if you add 29 more, since this is 30 separate paintings, this comprised one of his constellation pieces. And we purchased this right before Julian died, as at the end of a very long, rich career. And Julian's story, which I'm sure many of you know, and if you don't, come see me, was that he was a refugee. He was in a displaced persons camp after the war. He lost the use of his dominant hand, and yet created these unbelievably intricate optical paintings. So that was the first piece we put in here. The second is the sculpture by George Siegel, which I can see through the window, called Homeless. That was a donation to us from the Putnam estate. This is a piece that Siegel had done, has traveled in museum shows around the world. Such a treasure. And the piece was offered to us while Barbara Snyder was the president. She said, "Where can we put it?" And we both said, "Wouldn't you think you would put it here?" And we came over and measured, and it was as if the front of this building was absolutely a perfect marriage of scale and size, exact measurements. So it's a treasure for us to have that. I think the third piece and fourth piece to come in here were yours, Antoine's. The paintings that you did, I bought my moms and pops a crib and community, and you will talk more about those shortly. And right after that, we acquired the work of Charmaine Spencer. 2 pieces, we look up here and can see one of them called Water, the vessel, and then another around the corner, Air, which is the paper bells, and she'll talk more about those. I always wanted a Mo Brooker piece. I wanted one so badly, and I was following them at auction, and it turned out that the Cleveland Foundation was sort of redoing their art collection and donated the Mo Brooker that is out in the hall. What a treat that was. And then our most recent acquisition is the painting by Margaret Boland that is over in the corner, which is called The Portrait of Kenyatta and Brianna. And this is very, gorgeously painted portrait of several of the models that she uses very often in her work. And I think you'll find it very rewarding to go take a look at that work and to also understand what her motivations are. But now I will turn to introducing Antoine. So it occurred to me that it's very interesting that the 2 of you are both from Michigan. Who knew about that? So Antoine, as a kid, started his career drawing cartoon shows. I mean, who didn't? And then went to school at Southern University and A&M College and finished his studies, and was kind of on his way as an artist when he had a stroke that was extremely debilitating, and I think kind of, my impression, reignited a real fire in you to get back to art and to delve deeply into your history, the Harlem Renaissance, different artists that really had impressed you. And a visit to your studio was such a treat to see what art books you had in your bookcases and things that were around, and you could just see where he's picking color from here and form from there, and a delight. Charmaine, similarly, has a long career as a student, went to the Cleveland Institute of Art, won the McVeigh Special Award for Excellence, had worked with David Davis and other artists, and you draw from so many things in your career. I am really so impressed by what both of you achieved by being selected as part of the Art Futures fellowships, and what Front meant to your careers to have your works exhibited and then to have other people really from around the world see your works. And you're going to brag a little when you talk to us and tell us about your international shows and where you have gone in this time, including works at Art Miami Basel. So this is really from Michigan to Cleveland to the world. And we're very proud of you and thrilled to have this work in the collection. And so I'm going to turn it over to you now, Antoine. Do you want to do it from there?
Yeah, I could do it
Okay,
from there.
all right.
First of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody who came out today. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Kathy, and everybody that was involved with putting this together. But yeah, let's get the presentation going. So yeah, this photo here is kind of like, this is my studio, by the way, which is like a very small room in my front room in my home. My kids often come in there every day and pick around, and at the time my dog was alive, so he was stepping on stuff, and he was kind of going through some changes in his health, and so he was sort of like blind, and he would walk into stuff, and so during this time I was making a lot of work for my second solo exhibition that I did at Shaheen Gallery, but at the time I was also working over at Deep Dive with Bellamy Prince over there, doing like a residency and doing just sort of like I'll say an exploration into printmaking and experimentation. And so I was allowed to explore with a lot of materials. And so as you can see, it looks like I'm very, very busy, and looks like I'm building something, but I don't know what I'm doing at this point, because this is very early in that process.
Purpose, the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something simply exists. Whatever you're creating and putting into the universe, ask yourself, what's the purpose? What's my purpose, you ask? Documenting our culture, telling Black stories, and immortalizing our people.
Yeah, so like this video was done with the help of an artist who's up and coming, emerging, I would say. His name is Ryan Harris. He's also a photographer, videographer, and I do a lot of work with him, and I've been working with him over the past, I want to say 2 years, and we put this together because we wanted to figure out like how I can be an artist, but also what artists comes, like you have to be some like sort of like entrepreneur. You have to be, and then you have to be the marketing person, and you have to become all these things to be able to get your brand or your voice out there so people can know who you are. And so this is another part of my journey as being an artist, is promoting myself, which is very nerve-wracking. Right here, well, I'll talk a little bit before I get here about just that process of when you seen that earlier photo of me working on that solo exhibition, and I'm down on my knees and I'm kind of working with all these different materials. But as you can see, like with the work that Kathy put in the Putnam collection, didn't have nearly as much material as you. I wasn't painting like that to paint those paintings. I was painting in a traditional sense. But to get to that point, I kind of like went through like this way of like experimenting and wanting to go deeper. One of the books I read was Notes from the Woodshed by Jack Whitten, which is one of my favorite artists. I call him my art hero, a mentor of mine through his books and through his work. And when I read that book, it literally opened up my mind and changed the way that I wanted to make art moving forward. And so that's why you see, and you will begin to see some different changes in materials and texture and different things like that. So to lead to this point of like printmaking, when I was doing the residency at Bellamy, at Bellamy's Deep Dive, it was really really, really eye-opening of how powerful printmaking can be for an artist, but also I wanted to test out and also explore my work to be more accessible and affordable for folks who are entry collectors. Not everyone has thousands of dollars or upwards of whatever you can afford to spend on art, so I wanted to figure out a way to make art more affordable, so printmaking is sort of like that vessel that I'm using. So to lead to this picture here, I was asked to be in collaboration with the Cleveland Museum of Art, Zygote, and I believe the Public Library, I believe Case may be a part of that too. Aaron Benet, who is our historian here, and also runs a terrific after-school program called Pressing Matters. With that, I was asked to, they were doing a show, which is up now. You can go see it at the Cleveland Museum of Art. It's called, I believe, it's about the Caribou Ink artist, but I forget the title, so I don't want to butcher it, but please go see it if you can. I was asked to do a print that will commemorate that moment in time, and so what I did was do something. I don't know if the picture is up, but this is me working on in Zygote, which I believe Bellamy is in office. Is here. So I'm talking about her a lot. But she's here, and she's actually one of the co-founders of Zygote. Am I correct? So yeah, it's a lot of connection with me and Bellamy. So I'm in her space, and yeah, I'm working on the Chandler press, which I've never done before. I look lost.
Can you get that to move? Oh, there you go.
And so here you go. And please, if I'm the time, I know I can be long-winded.
You're fine.
Okay. This is me and Bellamy, and there you go again. I look lost as always when I'm trying to figure things out. I'm exploring. This right here, we kind of, you see this wood here. The statement and title of this show was called Work in Progress. I was actually working on the reconstruction show, which all the materials were being involved, and Bellamy came by my studio, and she started to see what I was working on, and I say, hey, I didn't want to do anything figurative. I want to do everything from materials, and I want to talk about my work in a different way. So I used this piece of wood there to kind of like explore that. And so that's what you see there. Here, me and Ben Levy, who was also a part of this project and also worked with Kathy in the past, and went through that process of actually collecting my work and helping with that process. We went over to ThinkBox and we made sort of like these jigs. And so we were exploring in that way. So I do graphic design too. So I took my graphic design skills, implemented that, and figured out a way to kind of like make these sort of like puzzle pieces and jigs to actually do printmaking as well. So I wanted this show to be more interactive, where folks can come in and touch things and be more interactive with the work. And so that's what you see right there, and that's how we made these flower pots, which what I would call condolences, because at the time when all of this was happening, I lost my grandmother in 2024, then I just lost my other grandmother in 2025. So there was a lot of emotion and a lot of things going on with me, internally, and just everything that was going on around me. And this is another part of the process with the Caribou Ink art show that's at the CMA. Right there was like me and Michael Whitehead, who is a mastermind when it comes to printmaking. I call him Yoda of the print world. But me and Michael were working on had me working on a few ideas. This is a linoleum cut. With that, I came up with these three concepts, and we ended up, everyone chose the one to the far left, which you will see if you go to CMA's gift shop. They're on sale right now. If you want to go over there and purchase one, please do. A little promotion. But they're up. We did a short run of them, and so during the time when the Caribou House artists were selling their artwork and they're selling their prints, they made them at this size here because the press that they had or the equipment that they had could only produce work at this size. But they only sold their works and their prints at $40. So that's what I'm charging $40. So we just kept everything streamlined and also in the way that they did it. And here's a close-up. And so these are the three. I will eventually print these and release them at some point, but that will be on my own accord. Yep. And that's me working again. It's me. These are some of the new works from the time that you see me on the floor. This is what happened at the end. Yeah, absolutely. And basketballs and kids' hands. It's definitely been through a lot. Trust me. This is also the show that was up at Brussels, Belgium, that I recently got invited to be a part of this group show. This piece actually sold, so I did sell my first international piece. Please give me a hand clap, please. I'm just playing. Y'all didn't have to clap. I'm just. And so now we're here with the two works that are in the Putnam collection. These came at a time when I was really exploring around like Black life, Black culture, and how me as a community member was trying to go through my mind and figure out how I can lend a voice to what was going on in our world from a social justice aspect. You see this piece called Community, but I chopped it up and called it Common Unity, and how it's spelled out. And as you see two black men, see one with the chair, but one seated without a chair. So it's talking about like how we as a community coming together, and I also have a statement too. Like I'll just read it because sometimes I'll be long-winded, so I'll just give you a short version of what this piece is about. It's two black men standing in quiet tension, one seated without a chair, the other holding one. Between them rests a Black Panther, symbolizing protection, strength, and the spirit of community. This piece speaks to the brotherhood, trust, and the complex balance of power, struggle, and healing amongst black men. The Panther watches over them as a reminder, and even in silence, we are protected and seen. And so that's the short version of what I wrote. Back when I made this piece, I usually just write down notes and jot down my ideas. And so that's what I came up with, and that's what came out. And so I would like to always say, like, I use that Panther also to kind of like just speak to, you know, if you all seen the Jungle Book, Bagheera, and how he was the protector of the boy, and you know the story if you've seen the Jungle Book. And so it also stems from that mythical character, but also just me talking about my culture and the historical context around the Black Panthers and what they meant to community. And so that's what that is. But if you see that in the left corner, you see the police circling the black men. And so it also talks about that constant surveillance of what you kind of face when you go out in the world. No matter what it is that you're doing, you kind of got this person or these folks over your shoulder to keep you in line. So that was kind of like the idea with that. And so with this one here was bought my mom's and pops a crib, and I wanted to have that sort of connotation to it, because when athletes or folks in my community make it, sometimes we're left with the burden of having to kind of reach back and take care of those who took care of us, instead of it going the other way around, where our parents are leaving us an inheritance. We tend to have to take on the burden to pass that back, which I don't want to call it a burden. I think it's a blessing, right, that you're able to do that. But it's talking about a cultural significance in my community, where that's an important thing, to be able to buy your mom or buy your dad or buy a loved one who took care of you all those years, took you to basketball practice, whatever they did to invest in you. I wanted to actually paint that, and also put the eagle there to talk about that's sort of like our American dream. Or when I was coming up and I'm talking to my homeboys, the American dream for us was to be able to provide for community, to be able to provide for the ones who took care of us. And so that's the short version, but of course I can go deeper. Yeah, upstairs. And so that's what this is about. And I will pass it on to Charmaine.
Hello? How do you turn this on? Is this on? Hello? Okay. When I was young, my mom threw away all the furniture. She threw away our beds, she threw away the couch, she threw away kitchen table. And when Sears came out with the smaller tools for women, she went and bought the tools, she went and bought materials, and we made our beds, we made our couch that looked like a park bench, and we made our kitchen table. And it seems crazy, but it was empowering for me to know that I can go through life and do the things or make the things that I would need to survive. So that's kind of how I look at everything. When I'm making it, what do I need? What can I substitute? What does the material, adding it to the piece, what does it make the art say? This second slide is wood lath, and I actually started using that because I thought I was going to build a labyrinth, and it was actually at CIA that I started this project. And when I actually needed to pick it up and move it for another student, that's when I actually started loving it and wanting it to be on the wall. This kind of represents to me like it's individual pieces, individual people bound together to support each other. I did another project in a market garden project with young kids, and they had to build the same thing but a trellis. We used lath, and they didn't get the concept of abstract shapes. I was trying to explain it, and when I said, well, the alphabet is abstract if you can't read it. And that's when they actually understood it, and they took off without my help. All I did was cut the wood and drill it together wherever they told me to. And that, I guess, was an empowering thing for them. This second slide, or the first slide, is a group of teenagers who we were making birdseed ornaments. And they kept stopping to ask me if it was okay, are they doing it right? And not until I challenged them to a race, all of them against me, when they stopped actually worrying about each little detail and started making. The second slide is a group of adults, which they had the harder time with, like, when you're an adult, you have more rules. They actually worked for a government program, and they had a lot of red tape that they had to follow. And their creativity, they didn't think that they had it in whatever they were doing. So I came up with a list of rules that they had to follow. No one saw what the other person was doing, but then also with a whole bunch of recycled materials, they could choose what they wanted to, and following the rules, make their piece, and then at the end they puzzled it together. If they didn't follow the rules, it wouldn't fit. But all of them did, and they were kind of amazed at what came out of it, like their individual creativity, and they could see each other's creativity. And that actually taught me that I need to make more rules. That the piece on the end, that he called it the Parthenon, is way too high. They couldn't hang the piece because of it. So that was a rule like that I didn't put on there. This piece in front of Woodland Cemetery is the one you have up here. It's a its first name was Listening Eye, and we did a show at the Sculpture Center. It was an augmented reality show for during COVID, and it was just after George Floyd. And I started thinking, like, I need some help. I need advice. Who would I ask for help in this situation? And the people that have been through it was my ancestors. So I made an ancestor vessel, and it was a community project that we had to involve the community collaboration. But I was finding it hard to figure out what to do, so what the community wanted didn't affect what I wanted to make. And so they actually they made the materials for another project by writing to their ancestors. I took that material and shredded it and used it in the Bell project. The last slide is a solo show at the Sculpture Center. In that one, it's water in that too. And that one I used, I made more spirit vessels and made their personalities the elements. It was 5 elements. I added humanity in that as an element. The middle sculpture is earth. The last slide is earth, and I kind of actually took it back to my studio and worked on it some more. This is the Akron Museum. Water. They chose water. They chose air, and they chose fire for the elements for that show. This is the front exhibition. And then the last slide is the first air. And that's all the shredded notes to the ancestors from the community in Central, where the Woodland Cemetery was, or is. And that's the art museum in Chicago for the Black Planet exhibition that Kathy bought or got air before they did, a week before they did. So I actually had to make another air. I told them the air was supposed to actually grow with participation. The more letters to your ancestors, the more materials I have to make the bells. So they commissioned me to make a new air. And that's all the materials. The air is 2025, has all the materials, all the art that they looked at for the show, and just they recycled it, gave it to me, and I used it in the bells that I created for them. That's the sound. Okay, so it got really large, and when it was in my studio, I was thinking the whole time, why did I make it this big. It's gonna take forever. But it was site-specific just for that space. And I think it needed to be that big. So, all right. So this is back to the elements. This was humanity. And this is the first one was going back to my studio, and I wanted to redo it. I wanted to, like, I thought I could do better. So this second slide, the middle slide, is me working on it. And that is actually going to be in the front show, our fellowship show. And I'm calling it Harvesting Humanity. Because I'm harvesting it, and also I feel like our government is harvesting us because we have value, because we have strength, and they're trying to harvest that, and that's kind of a sneak peek into the front show in September, and that is my last slide. Just my studio plants. Thanks.
I think we have, you told us a lot about what inspires you and how you got started, and the medium you're using in terms of producing your art. But I think that we may have... Mike? Oh. I'm sorry. Oh, yes. I'm mesmerized. You've told us a lot about what inspires you and the, how you've gotten started and the progression of your works. And I just wonder, moving from watching you upstairs as you assembled your art, it was fascinating just to see you pull the pieces together. I mean, we were sitting there just observing, trying to stand back. But could you tell us whether your work has changed over time in terms of, I know you talked about different things that you planned for one moment and then created others, but has it changed over time, or have you been steadfast in terms of your approach?
Kind of both. I think that, I continue to kind of search for the proper materials or use the materials to say what I need, like what I want to say, like vocally. So that's the same. But actually, I stopped doing a lot of, I kind of changed after COVID and George Floyd. I actually took a look at really what I wanted my career to be, and what changed is my focus, mostly. Like, I like exhibition work. I like installation. And I kind of quit my job and is focused on that.
Mm-hmm. And you like working with young people and not so young people to think about their creative processes, right?
I mean, that was, I want them to want to be there, though. Like, I don't, kind of want a class that actually, is just there because they have to be. Mm-hmm. So I do like working with people too.
So Antoine, I want to ask you the same question then, to have the opportunity to respond. You've gone from drawing to painting to now to paintings, to printmaking.
Yeah.
And we saw you on the floor by yourself, but I'm sure that printmaking includes lots more of a community. So can you tell us about that transition and what it's meant to you?
Yeah, I think like being in Cleveland and being an artist here, you get this sense of like we have all these different silos. Like artists aren't always working in community. So I think with with the work that you've seen with me working on the floor is very personal. It's almost like this kind of spiritual thing that I go through. You know, it's a lot of notes everywhere. Kathy, you seen my dry erase board. It has a lot of inspirational things on it. But then when I leave the studio, I don't feel the same way I feel inside of my home like I feel inside of like community. And so I think like what printmaking offers is I'm able to go out and now share ideas with others who know more than me about a process. And then I feel like I'm back in art school again, like just being inside of like a print studio and working with people who are helping me think through ideas, and it's very collaborative. But then also at some point I would love to just, you know, like become a master at that and then figure out a way to like pass that to like younger, you know, artists in the community and hopefully build a program around that. So it's a lot of just like short-term goals and long-term goals that I have for myself when it comes to printmaking. But of course, like being able to make one thing, 20 things, 100 things, and really making that limited also expands where my artwork can go. Yeah, so that's really what I've been enjoying about just going in between printmaking and painting.
And now you're part of both of you are part of our academic community.
Yep.
So we can learn together and be a part of a grand learning community in terms of thinking about, reflecting on your work. I've seen people stand back and look at your pieces and just, you know, just stand and just gaze. And I often want to ask them, what are you thinking? What's your impression of this piece? And so it gives us an opportunity as well, because there are many people who are part of this community and those who've come into this particular presentation that know both of you. But I'm wondering if there are questions that you might have of our artists. So I want to make sure that I give the audience a chance to ask questions as well.
Absolutely. So if you do have a question from the audience or our online viewers, online, please type it in the chat. And in person, you can raise your hand and I'll come find you and pass the microphone off to you.
Good afternoon. I'm probably one of those spectators. It makes such an impression and a positive, reflective impression to be in a place where we can admire this amazing work. And so it's what a treat to be in front of the artists. I heard of your community art, the way that you share art with community members, and also the mention of having to try to build that presence for oneself as an artist. And that's kind of challenging to be, not promoting maybe the person, but we are in a society where really like people do have to survive, and it's challenging with art. So if you could share just the ways in which you have navigated that expressing your art, but at the same time making sure that allows a livelihood and marketing, for lack of a better word. Thank you.
So not until after COVID did I kind of focus on making my fine art actually pay the bills. I've always, before that, I was like making birdseed cookies and selling them during our building. The building my studio is in has a third Friday event every month. So I'm like cleaning my studio every month to get ready for third Friday to make $200 some days. So I mean, and it wasn't worth it. So like when you actually, I'm doing better actually when I'm actually focusing on what I need to do to build my career. it seems to be working, which I was always scared of before that. But after COVID, I got through that. I was like, nothing is gonna beat me now. So, like, yeah. Is that answer your question? Yeah. Sorry.
No, when it comes to marketing too, like for me, it was really just trying to make sure it's not like, I know I'm an artist, so I know I have a certain type of integrity or that I'm trying to hold within, I guess, like the art world, so to speak. But also I understand like now with social media and everything is like personal brand and things that you put out there is more so people are starting to buy into folks more so than the actual thing. And so I try to like learn when I was growing up, it was the other way around. It was like, yeah, you got to have a quality product. Now it's like, oh no, you could just be a cool person, right? And I'm just like, what? But in trying to balance the two, that's the thing that's challenging for me, is just like trying to figure out like what do I give of myself to also bring people into like sort of like my world, to know like I'm also a human, like I also exist in that way as well. So it's been a very tough thing to navigate when you talk about social media and likes and should I go live today? Should I not? Should I say this on social media? Should I have an opinion? Should I not have an opinion? So a lot of times I'm just very quiet. And but for the most part, I just try to just share highlights of what I'm doing to inspire and keep things going in that way. But outside of that, I still haven't figured out what that piece of it is for me. Like, so that will be an ongoing journey.
Thanks, that's good. Hi, both of you. Materiality is a really important part of your work, especially for you, Antoine, now, and Charmaine, always. And so I'm kind of interested in, like, I think it's really interesting about the taking the letters to the ancestors, and I'm curious about your other materials and the materials that you use to make these sort of chunky paintings. How do you think about which things you choose in terms of the materials in your work? Does that make sense?
You're not ready yet? Okay. She's not ready yet. I would say like what I've been doing, I think when I'm thinking about my work, the title of the last show was called Reconstruction, so I started to think about building materials as a sort of like metaphor to replace the actual figure. So I started to put in drywall, I started to mix in the different things that you will see in the community, concrete and different things of that nature, to kind of like guide and tell the story for me. But then, you know, once you start to mix in paint and you start to mix in all these other things, you get this beautiful sort of like abstraction to the actual story that I was trying to tell. So to answer your question, it's really thinking about what I'm trying to say and using the material to actually be the actual catalyst for the thing that I'm trying to say. So if I'm trying to rebuild something, I started to think about what would someone use on a construction site, or how would a construction site look when you're tearing something down and you're trying to rebuild it. And so that was literally my process, even not only with just the painting, but also with myself. It's like I'm literally rebuilding myself as an artist, right? I got to tear all of the things I learned in art school that kind of had these boundaries over the way that I was thinking, and I started to like use that metaphor and use that thing that guided me to kind of make that work as well. So those two things was really the thing that drove where I'm at today. And so, yeah, does that do it? Okay, cool.
For the ancestor materials, when I did the augmented reality show, and it was the kind of collaboration with the community, it was Central Neighborhood, and the show it was I don't know how many artists, but we each had a community that we were representing. And just, I needed to use the material for another piece. So I didn't want to lose the voice or the idea of the like letters having a voice or making a sound. So that's why I made kind of bells with it. But, you know, like the paper bells aren't really going to make a sound. So I thought about the African brass bells that you wear on your ankles during weddings and things to make the sound for them. So that was like just thinking about how the materials are going to, like, what are you saying with the materials, or what did the community, when the community was writing, like, how would you express a voice or a song, or, so thinking about that and how to turn that into something 3D, like tangible. And then, like, if I go to a, or if I did a, for CAN, you had to apply for that, and what I applied for it and you know, said how much I needed for what I wanted to make, and they gave me half of it. So like that changed my materials. And like I went to the beach and got driftwood, because, you know, what's the cheapest material? It's free. So, so yeah, I used a lot of driftwood. I used a lot of clay and a lot of paper mixed in there to build a big like installation. Actually, that's in Cincinnati, in the Ohio Now exhibition that's coming up.
Wonderful. We have time for about one more question, but we do encourage you to connect with the artists at the end during our art tour from 1:30 to 2, but I'll pass it off for the last question here.
Hi, thank you. I just want to say how blessed we are to have your artwork here, so thank you to both of you for being available to talk to us today. Not an easy question, but we're in a situation now in our context in our country where artists of color and the history of art, artists of color is being challenged and with erasure. And I just wonder how you're navigating that space and whether you've chosen to respond to that reality, and how can we be supportive of you as artists of color?
Most complex
Antoine, you
question.
need to tell us about Karamu Arts as well. Resurgence.
Right. I think you know, what's going on in the country, I think plays a huge part of how I respond in anything. Like, I'm always looking at the news, I'm always responding through my work anyway, so I don't think for me it's a change or anything that is kind of riled me up more to kind of like, all right, they need to hear from me, right? Like, I think this is the best time that an artist could live in, because it's so much content to use, and to also like dive deeper into, like, I didn't even know what tariffs was until now. I'm like, tariffs. I'm like, what? I'm like, wow, I hear that so much. But what, how I choose to respond is just to continue to do what I'm doing in the community, but also through like the art shows that I have coming up, one in Transformer Station that I will kind of just continue to talk about just life, culture, but then also just kind of talk about like more of the things that matter to my community the most. I know artists can get, or us all can get caught up in the bigger thing that's going on, but I choose love and focus on that. I've lost 2 grandmothers at this point in time in my life, so the most important thing to me is to get closer to family. So through the artwork, I'll be responding in those ways, but then also, like, you know, through like art, you know, you going to go actually check out the Karamu Arts Inc. show at CMA to see what the history of what these artists have done over that generation before mine, and what the Harlem Renaissance artists brought to and continue to bring to me as like long gone, I'm standing on their shoulders, so I'm able to like take these stories and continue to build this sort of narrative for the next generation. So I don't know how I'm going to continue to respond, but yeah, I don't know. Wherever that goes, I'm gonna just continue to keep
And
doing
also-
my thing.
And also, I want to mention that you can read about Antoine and the Karamu Arts within the Can Journal. There's one over here.
For sure.
And they are free to our community. And I may have a couple, but that'll be out here.
And mention Charmaine's catalog.
Yes, yes, I want to mention your catalog because someone spied when they were sitting over there registering. They said, and so what is that right there? And so, Charmaine, could you tell us about your catalog?
Well, it's from
Exhibition in Barcelona.
Okay. So the bales I made for the Art Institute of Chicago is traveling. It's Barcelona. It's going to Barcelona next. It's going to Brussels, and then to London, and then it's going back to Chicago to the DeSable Museum, Black History Museum, and that's its new home. But the catalog is of that whole show. So.
Can we go through the Art Institute of Chicago to get a copy of the catalog?
Can I add one thing that you earlier mentioned that perhaps we could help you?
Okay. So I'm actually I'm working on humanity, and the humanity is still going to be like named humanity, but there's going to be another piece kind of over it, like hovering over it, and that's going to be the harvester kind of like shape or vessel. So if you want to actually write to your ancestors, if you have something, humanity is actually made of shredded assessments, job assessments, school assessments, everybody's kind of like thoughts on each other. So if you have assessments you want to add to it, then I will take it and use it as material.
Is there a way we could do this here? You know, we could get the kind of paper that you would prefer, or a range of paper, make them available here at MSAS, and people could write messages to their ancestors or assessments or a whole range of communications you want to make. And then we would collect them and get them to you, and you would shred them and pulp them, and off they'd go to Barcelona and points west.
Hopefully, yeah. I actually, I'm going to answer the last question too. So I actually just make when that's actually what I'm doing now. I'm trying to focus on making my frustration or what I want to say, what I see. I want to make it into 3D sculptures.
And let's give another round of applause for our wonderful moderators, Sharon Milligan, Kathy Berry. And lastly, our wonderful, wonderful artists, thank you for your time and your wonderful contributions, Antoine Washington and Charmaine Spencer. And as mentioned, we encourage you all to join the art tour till about 2 p.m. Thank you, everyone.